Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the West Ham Network. What a day, what a week, what a half a season we've had, eh? I want to get some questions in the channel. Let's see, wait for a few people to get in here first. I've been away for a little bit, guys. I know I said I'd be back every Wednesday, but Christmas happened and life happened and a million and one things come up. So I'm back every Wednesday now in the New Year's. Thanks again to Russ and all the guys at the West Ham Network for having me on and letting me have me show again. And yeah, let's get cracking, shall we? What are you guys thinking about this Graham Potter appointment? Let's get that in the chat. There we go. Right. So that's the first question I want to hear from everyone. And as always, if you are interested in giving me a follow, then you can find me at Jamie Talks on all socials, going across the bottom of your screen now. So, how am I feeling? Well, I think I'm never the kind of person to want a manager to fail or anything of that kind of nature. But I think the Lopetegui experiment was clearly doomed from the start and never really worked. And I don't really know why it didn't work, to be honest with you. I think there's the players haven't performed, the tactics haven't been right, game management hasn't been right. We haven't really had much of an identity going into games. I was at the game on Saturday in Manchester, and that was like just a horror performance again. And it was one of many horror performances all season. So I can't sit here and say I'm surprised by the sacking of Lopetegui. I thought he'd get a little bit more time, if I'm honest with you. But I think a change is probably needed because there hasn't been enough improvement from what they won against Aston Villa to, that absolute trouncing against Man City. And ironically, it'll be Graham Potter's first game against Aston Villa on Friday evening in the Cup. So he's got a baptism of fire straight away. But I think, I tweeted about this earlier. I don't know if any of you guys follow me on Twitter and whatnot, but Lopetegui was at the club for 191 days. That's the shortest amount of time of any West Ham manager ever. And when you look at his win ratio being lower than Avram Grant, it's no surprise as to why. He clearly wasn't the right fit. He clearly wasn't good enough. And I think ultimately him being sacked and leaving the club is probably the right decision. But I think the entire way it has been handled by West Ham is a bit below the belt, if I'm honest with you. I mean, it was quite conclusive that, when David Moyes was at the club, we were looking at other managers, and that was very much public knowledge and whatnot. But it does feel quite wrong again. I don't necessarily approve of that kind of behaviour, if I'm honest. Whether that makes me a naive football fan, I'll sit on that. But I mean, openly chasing Graham Potter while Lopetegui is still in charge, I think is a bit below the belt. When you then add into the mixture, like real life problems, over the last month or so, Lopetegui has lost his dad to I don't know what his dad died of, but of course, but he lost his dad, went back to Spain, and then within days, he's back in the dugout, trying to make things work. And again, he made poor decisions and whatnot. But the decision from the board to kind of treat Lopetegui in this way, when I think his dad passed away and he's back in the dugout a few days later trying to turn things around. I just don't think it shows much class or tact from West Ham. And that's like, as a 32-year-old man, that's like absolutely adores West Ham like you all do. When things like that happen with your football club, it just doesn't really sit right. It's just not a nice thing, like in any workplace, you would be afforded time to go and be with your loved ones and things like that. And you would like to think that people will make conscious decisions around that. And I just think it's a bit unfortunate. And I think the whole thing's been handled poorly, if I'm honest. It's just typical West Ham airing our dirty laundry as always. And it just doesn't sit right on me, if I'm honest. Again, wasn't good enough at the club, Lopetegui. low win rate, lower than Avram Grant. What did Avram Grant do? He got us relegated. He wasn't the right, Lopetegui wasn't the right fit. I thought he would do very well. He didn't. Ultimately, him leaving the club is the right decision. Even at the weekend, I was pissed off with him at the Man City game. Travelled all that way to watch West Ham away at City, probably the only team in the league who are, who were rivaling us in terms of form, and they battered us. And then at full time, he didn't go clap the fans or anything. He just went straight into the tunnel, and that pissed me off. So I'm not sat here like heartbroken because Lopetegui, the manager, is gone. But I don't think West Ham have done a good job of treating uh, Lopetegui as the human being in a good and cordial way. I think we've been quite underhanded in some of our tactics. A lot of things have gone to the press. A lot of people, people have known, it's been public knowledge for days that Graham Potter is, will he, won't he, and whatnot. I just think it's a bit unfair, especially when the guy lost his dad on like a Monday, was in Spain on the Tuesday, and then back in London by the end of the week to play a game. I just think it's a bit disappointing from a human perspective. But when you start trying to put morals into football, I think we're all on to a losing game. Right. So let's get into the comments, shall we? Right. Usual suspect. Feel really sorry for the way Lopetegui has been treated in the second, but it doesn't take away what an absolute disaster he's been. Yeah, you're right, mate. You've pretty much said what I've said there in a much more concise way. Sonny says, could be good. Doubt it'll be a bad appointment, but could be pretty average. Style of play would improve, and hopefully players will adapt easily. I think we have the players for it. Stu, good to have you, mate. Evening. Glad he has gone now. We can play well and slowly climb up the table. That's the aim. Damien, how you doing, mate? I think it's a terrible appointment. Why would you let Brady identify a manager? I don't think his playing style suits the players, and I don't think his personality will resonate with the group. Barry, how you doing, mate? I am all good. Thank you very much for asking. What do I think? Okay, Damien, what do I think about what do I think about Graham Potter? Again, I think I don't think it's a bad appointment personally. I understand that there's a lot of underhanded, again, tactics, which is typical West Ham in terms of like Karen Brady. Apparently, her husband played with him at Birmingham, so they're like friends and whatnot. That doesn't stop the fact that he's managed a top six side. He did very well at Brighton, did very well at Swansea. Did extraordinarily well in Sweden. I think when you put him in in a West Ham dugout, you look at our squad, and I say this on paper, we do have a strong squad, and it's crucial for Graham Potter as manager of West Ham to get these players back to performing at the levels that we know they can. And I'm talking about Paquetá, Kudus, and Bowen there. I know Bowen's he's had drips and drabs where he's doing very well, but obviously when he comes back from injury, you would like to see him do well. But there's been a lot of players that were top performers for us last year, haven't really turned up this year. So I think his first job is getting those players playing very well. And how much of that was style of play is to be to be determined in a way. So I think why Graham Potter could do well at West Ham, and I'll just give you like my take. I think he's tactically versatile in the way that his sides look to dominate possession. He uses fluid formations like a 3-4-3, or going back to his previous clubs like 4-2-3-1s. To try and control games. And his teams often overload the midfield. To stretch the opposition with width and build attacks through smart passing. Now, in the width, I think we have good width players. I think Somerville is showing a lot. Kudus is showing a lot. Bowen is showing a lot. And in terms of like incisive passing, we know that Lucas Paquetá has that in the locker. So I think on the face of it, we have some of the players that can fit his system very, very well. When you look at his time at Brighton, played very possession-based football. He was entertaining and effective. Most importantly, it wasn't just like, we'll keep the ball and not do much with it. It was effective, so he maintained defensive solidity alongside that. And then at Chelsea, he played a slightly different way where he tried to get the best out of his players, with quick movement, up the pitch and high pressing, for example. So he's played like slightly different styles at all of his clubs. And I think West Ham, that how he chooses to like start implementing at West Ham will be interesting to see. But I do think players like Bowen, Paquetá, and Kudus, could thrive and do very well, under Potable, as we say. So is it the Hollywood signing? No, I don't think it is. But I do think he's probably a Premier League manager that knows the Premier League a little bit better than Lopetegui. He's also a player that's made players into absolute stars, we should say. I'm talking about players like Caicedo, who went for mega money to Chelsea, McAllister, who went to Liverpool for big money and has gone on to do very well there. Even Cucurella, who was really good at Brighton, started poorly at Chelsea and is now looking like a good left back. So he's created a lot of big players in the league. I know that was part of like an elaborate scouting system that Brighton had, but it would have been his coaching and his systems that helped those players get to the next level. So you'd like to think that there's players in the squad that he can maybe help elevate their game, or even in the scouting department alongside a Tim Starton if he stays, or whoever's going to be scouting at the football club. It'll be interesting to see if he can improve the quality of players at the club in terms of helping them build their game. So because I think we've got a lot of good players at the football club. I just think, as bad as Lopetegui was in terms of game management and things like that, and his decision making at times, I think it was poor. I do still think there's a lot of West Ham players that probably can't look at themselves, with a clean conscience, because I think a lot of players have been underperforming. So yeah, that's my quick take. I say quick; it was probably about a 5-minute rant, but that's my take on Graham Potter. Not over the moon, but I'm not disappointed with it. Lawrence Salmon says, was Marco Silva get out price only 8 million? It was indeed. It was indeed. Big 2 games next week for Potter. Hoping Potter will be a good fit for us. You say next week he's got a big game this Friday in the Cup. Stu, I haven't been to a game this season because we're playing crap, but I may go to a game now. Well, yeah, let's hope we can turn it around. I know we've got Palace in a couple of weeks, right? Next weekend, haven't we? Next Saturday we got Palace, 3 p.m. kickoff, I think. I think we will have a worse or the same record under Potter than J-Lo. Interesting. Peter Chelmsford, Potter will need a magic one to sort us out. We've brought him in. Let's hope he's related to Harry somehow. Sonny, think it says a lot about Bowen is the only one to put out a statement thanking him. Pretty much whole squad did one to Moyes. In a way, I think people read into social media a lot, I suppose. Our squad isn't that strong if you go through it. There's a lot of dead wood to get rid of. Maybe Peter, but I think there's a lot of players that have underperformed since coming to the football club, especially people that we signed in the summer. And I think I wouldn't be willing to completely write off people like a Nicholas Fulkrug just yet, personally. Obviously got his goal on the weekend, but he was like, for someone who was in the stadium watching the game, he was given nothing all game, given absolutely nothing. So it'd be interesting to see who does stay, who does go. I agree. He fills the field and moves players around the counter opposition through whole match. The downside is we will score less goals. We don't score goals under Lopetegui, mate. If he's allowed to get support and recruitment staff in, I think he'll steady the ship. Bit of smart investment, could be sharp turnaround, will reinvigorate the players. Peter Chancellor, to be even partially successful, you need a good defence to stop the flood of goals being conceded. Yeah, I mean, it's all valid points, and you'd like Graham Potter style to come into the club and maybe help us shore us up a little bit in a way. I do think we have the players to do that. I just think we're playing with such a high line at the moment. When you really analyse how West Ham have been playing under Lopetegui, we don't have a great deal of pace at the back. The amount of last-ditch challenges that Aaron Wan-Bissaka is having to make, because he's the only one with real, genuine pace, it says it already. We're playing a high line. And I actually wholeheartedly don't think a Tadibo and a Max Kilman, Emerson, Soufal, I don't think they're bad defenders. I just think when you put them in a high line and they're asked to go against some of the fastest players in the world week in, week out, they're getting exposed, So I think what Graham Potter will do is probably drop the back line a little bit, and hopefully that will steady the ship a little bit. Damien, if he works to the strengths of the group, he could do well. If he has a set philosophy and is adamant on implementing it, I think he will struggle. When he played at a three in the back, he often used a winger as one of the wing backs. For example, March was the one normally on the right. Wonder who could play that role for us. Don't think Crescencio gets back enough. I think honestly, that's probably Jared Bowen, isn't it? Or even a Mohamed Kudus, maybe. I don't know. I think that I think you need someone pacey. You can see that maybe being an Emerson, actually. An Emerson, but I wouldn't be afraid of putting a Kudus there either, because he does get forward and I think he can travel the pitch. I wouldn't want him there. I'd want him to be more effective further up the pitch, of course. But if you're going to play a wing back, maybe like an Emerson's probably that man, or a Wan-Bissaka. I think a high pressing 4-2-3-1 is the way to go if the club sign him a striker with pace, but we'll see what he thinks is the best way to go. Sullivan needs to sell up. Enough now. Take Brady with you. Clown, circus emoji, hammers. Thank you, MDP. Right. We do have some great players. Areola, Emerson, Kilman, Todibo, Wan-Bissaka, Alvarez, Soler, Paquetá, Somerville, Kudus, Bowen, when fit. Come on. We can start playing properly again. Guilherme will get a chance. It'll be good to see Luis Guilherme get a chance. Yeah, that line has been way too high all season. Do you think he goes the 4-3, the 3-4-3 route, and just will he have time to buy some new players in? So will he go the 3-4-3 route? I mean, it's brave in this modern Premier League for a team of like West Ham to do it. I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility. I think I can see it happening with, a backline of maybe like a Kilman, Todibo or Mavropanos, and then maybe like a Wan-Bissaka inside as like a back three, and then maybe a Soufal and an Emerson in that four. I can see that happening. So it's almost a back five in a way. I can see that. I don't know if West Ham have the players necessarily to play in the four if we're going all attacking, because you'd think, I don't know if we have, you'd have to do that, wouldn't you, really? Because if you're picking all your defenders there with the back three and you're not picking defensive players in your four, I think it would be a bit tough. I also think the 3-4-3 isn't necessarily set up as a 3-4-3. I think it's more like it changes going forward and defending. So it is basically defends in a 5 and goes forward in a 3-4-3. So I could see it being a back three if he was to do this, of the Kilman, Todibo or Mavropanos as one of the two, and the third being maybe like either a Soufal or an Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and then the right hand side of the four being a Wan-Bissaka or a Soufal. I can imagine that kind of interchanging. On the left hand side, again, Emerson, and then in the middle, I think that will be maybe a Soler and a Paquetá or a Souček, and then the three at the front kind of writes itself. It's probably going to be full crew, Kudus and Bowen. So whether that means Bowen plays centrally and Crescencio Somerville plays is a good kind of problem for the manager to have. But will he go with the 3-4-3 route? I'm not 100% sure, but I think he's probably got the players to do it. I just think, it's whether he'll want to. I think he's probably more likely to do a 4-2-3-1, if I'm honest. So you go with the flat back four, the two holding, the three kind of more expansive players, and then maybe a full crew at the top of that. That's what I can see happening. And I think that would probably be our strongest side. I think we'd have potential to leave ourselves a little bit too overexposed in a 3-4-3. But hopefully, whatever system Graham Potter does bring into West Ham, he can implement it quickly, because we've seen under Lopetegui that the philosophy of play that he has, whatever that philosophy is, because I'm still unaware of it, hasn't been put across to the players quick enough, and hasn't been successful enough, unfortunately. Day one against Aston Villa in the Premier League, we were the second best side, and I don't think I've seen enough improvement all the way up to Man City on the weekend. And I've been fortunate enough to go to a lot of games this year, and there's been a lot of bad watching, a lot of 90 minutes lost in my life. Here we go. Right. Stuart, will you have time to buy some new players in? Well, this is a whole nother thing of the club this year. This week. It's all dependent on where where the kind of weight of responsibility sits on transfers, because obviously all the news coming out of the club this week will have you believe that Tim Starton has had his role reduced and his responsibility across transfers he's had that reduced also. So whether that means Graham Potter will be more over that, or it's going to be sitting under David Sullivan and Mark Noble and other people in the scouting department. I know Tim Starton's brother's in there. I really don't know, but I mean, he has the majority of, well, probably about 2.5, 3 weeks of January left. There's more than enough time to get players in. I just think, if the club are starting to look at players now, then we're in trouble. I imagine they've been identifying players throughout the season. So you would like to think that we could get some players in. I think it's just probably we're going to have to let people go. And interestingly, people like Edson Alvarez, for example, he's been linked with a move to Monaco on loan. So we'll be linking up with Tilo Kehrer if he goes there, which would be a shame because I would say I actually coined him as West Ham captain at the start of the season. If Jared Bowen didn't get it, because he was my favourite player last season, him and Emerson, and I think he's great, but I think he's not lived up to the same standards he set himself last year. I think we need to sell before we buy. I think you're right there, Peter. Good managers are able to change formations several times in match. I agree with you there, mate. Will he bring more entertaining football to watch? I think everywhere he's played as a manager, I think he's had he's had more attacking. Well, I don't say it's attacking, but he's had an entertaining style of play, which I think is great. I think West Ham fans have been kind of crying out for that for a little while now. For me, I sat through years of David Moyes football, and I think a lot of us are being brought back down to reality this year. Like, David Moyes football was never the prettiest of watch, but I don't care if I watch 90 minutes of football and we come home and shit us a win. Excuse my language. I don't mind that. So I don't need to necessarily be entertained for 90 minutes of football. But what I don't want is a Lopetegui approach where we take all that was good about West Ham last year in terms of our counter-attacking threats and just exchange it for a few extra passes around the centre-back and more expansive wing-backs that can't get back and defend in time, or a super high line to try and, starve teams of other, ironically starve teams of shots and opportunities on goal, but we're getting beaten 4-0 every weekend. So I think he'll bring an entertaining style of football. I just wouldn't be against us, shutting up shop occasionally and giving ourselves an opportunity to actually win games, Damien, thanks for commenting again, mate. I think 4-2-3-1 and a striker with pace, Latte Lath, for example, was the way to go. I thought Fonseca would have been a better option set up like his little side. Yeah, not a bad shout, mate. What's your thoughts on Edson linked to Monaco? Thanks for commenting, Freddie. Yeah, I said about it a second ago. For me, it's a real shame. It really is a shame. I mean, I think there's a space for Edson Alvarez in this West Ham side, but I would have said the same thing about James Ward-Prowse. I really would have done. Edson Alvarez for me was probably alongside Emerson last year, was probably my favourite West Ham player. He embodies the spirit. He's Mexican, but it's almost he knows what it's like to play for West Ham when you watched him last year. And this year, whether it's been style of play or whatever it is at West Ham, whether it's been how Lopetegui's been lining the team up, I think he hasn't lived up to those same standards. And whether that means he's on his way out of the club now, I don't know. But if he went to Monaco, he'd have Champions League football. I could understand why it'd be an attractive move for him. He's obviously played with Tilo. Did he play for Tilo Kehrer? He didn't actually, did he? Either way, but he'd be linking up with Tilo Kehrer. Oh, he did play with him. Cool, did last year. So yeah, it would be a shame because I actually do quite like Edson Alvarez, and as I said, I kind of had him in as a suggestion for be West Ham captain at the start of the season. So it'd be a shame. But I can understand it because he hasn't performed this year. Brady knows best from Damien. Adding to what Peter said, just saw a video from Glenn Murray saying when he played under Potter, they changed formations 3-4 times a game. Yeah, and I don't think that's too uncommon. I think a lot of players a lot of teams will change formation now, and a lot of teams in general will attack in one formation and defend in another. And then depending on, like, that's where game management comes into it. So it'll be interesting to see what Graham Potter brings to this West Ham side. And I think, I am excited by the appointment. I am, because I think it's an opportunity to see something different to what I've seen all year. So I'm excited in that regard. But yeah, like, it's West Ham at the end of the day. We can't get too above our stations, because whenever we seem to do that, we get brought back down to earth quickly. All right, Daniel. Evening, Jamie. If he gets two players in, i.e. a pacey striker and pacey box-to-box midfielder, he'll be able to stabilise the squad. Just hope the fan base doesn't expect a lot before summer window. Yeah, well, I think he's going to have to... rumours are, to be honest, guys, I actually read the press release from West Ham. So from what I'd heard, and tell me if I'm wrong down below, please, he was on a 6-month contract to the end of the season with performance incentives. So he'll have to do something at the football club, something that warrants a contract extension before the end of the year, to even stay on at West Ham. Very much like what David Moyes had to do. So it'll be interesting to see. Going to start wrapping up the stream in a minute, guys. I was only going to do half hour tonight, but there's been lots of you in here talking. Over 200 you viewing at the moment. Lee Heesman, how are you doing, mate? I am good. First show back in a while, so I am excited to be back on the West Ham network. Took some time off over Christmas, well-needed time, because I've been busy last year. So yeah, as I say, guys, if anyone ever wants to talk outside of the show, anyone ever wants to come on the show and just do a little back and forth in terms of talking West Ham and everyone give their say and stuff like that, you by all means contact me on any of my socials. You can see at the bottom, Jamie Talks, or reach out to the guys at West Ham Network and whatnot, and we can set that up for sure. But I'm Jamie Talks on all socials. You'll find me rabbiting on about West Ham on Twitter quite often. So yeah. Damien, interesting, mate. There's been contrasting reports saying it's a 2.5-year deal. Interesting, fair enough. We need to start winning on the weekend. It does not matter the FA Cup. No, it'd be nice to win a FA Cup, wouldn't it? I say that, like, I'm so into football rivalries. I say that it's a silly thing to say, but like I don't like many other football clubs. But like, for example, last night I see Newcastle beat Arsenal. And I'm like, I would love it for Newcastle to go and win that cup. It'd be a real day out for their football fans, and for a club that's outside the traditional top six. I love seeing that for them. We had the Europa League. I'd love us, like, because the league's like gone. We might be able to scrape top 10 if we really put in a strong second half of the season. But if we really focused on the FA Cup for the rest of the season, give our all. In some strange world, if we were to win that competition, it would be a route back into Europe, which I really miss on a Thursday night. So yeah, that's that really. I would love us to put all our eggs in the FA Cup basket. And Sonny said, how's the Baller League stuff going? Good, thank you for asking, mate. Interesting. You must follow me on socials. Top man. Yeah, Baller League's going well, mate. League kicks off in March for anyone that's interested. We are going to be playing in East London. I will reveal the stadium soon, but it's in East London. So yeah, I'd love it if we beat them for sure. Kevin Keegan, absolutely. Don't want him to fail. Just think you will fail. That might be the best way to end it, Mark, because that is the most West Ham statement I've ever heard. But guys, thanks again, as always, for having me. As I said, sorry I haven't been around for a few weeks. It has been Christmas, and none of you guys wanted to watch me over Christmas anyway. Let's be clear. But yeah, it's been good. Let's just get one last comment in here. All right, Jamie, bit late, but look, this might not be the best appointment, but want the best for the Potter. For Potter, but the board are under immense pressure because everything that's happened, mate. You're right there, Randy. I think that sums it up perfectly. But guys, that has been the wrap up with myself, Jamie Talks. As I said, I am here every weekend. I just get my words open. I am here every week on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. To about 9:30 every week, doing about half hour, wrapping up all the latest West Ham news. If you want to talk or tweet or anything in the week, I am at Jamie Talks. Find me on all socials. You can find me there if you want to have a chat, or tell me if I'm an idiot for anything I said on it, because I am welcome to feedback. Right. Anyway, guys, I will catch you all later. Thanks again to Russ and all the guys at West Ham Network for letting me have my show, and I'll see you later. Cheers.